Woo! It is hot outside. It is hot outside. Man, on a day like today, that's hot and a little bit windy, and the possibility of fire danger, I wish I had an air conditioner, but I don't. You know what? Really quick, I had not had an air conditioner since I was a kid. I'm gonna say like mid '90s was the last time I had an air conditioner. It was when my parents and I were living in Sonoma, which is where I'm from. I was born in Santa Rosa, but I was raised in Sonoma and Glen Ellen. And these apartments in the Mission Inn apartments in Sonoma had air conditioning. That was the last time I had air conditioning. But that is not the story I'm here to tell. So, story time. I'm gonna spend a little time on telling a few stories from this book right here. It is called My Life in a Nutshell. It's a story about my life. That is me as a little one. That was my dad. My Life in a Nutshell, the whole book is available on barnesandnoble.com and on Amazon. There's a Linktree link in my bio. Go ahead and click on that. That'll take you to my Linktree page, and you will find My Life in a Nutshell, as well as many other books and short stories available now. I'm going to do this at random, so I'm going to spend, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on talking about this book, but for the next, I don't know, a couple days, maybe a month, I'm just going to randomly pick something out of the table of contents of all these chapters I have and tell you a little story. Now, I'm not going to read from it. I'll leave that to you to read it, but I'm just going to tell a story from it. So I am going to go ahead and take two chapters, which is 3 and 4. Chapter 3 called We All Have a Love Story. Chapter 4 called Waiting for Her, because these two chapters really just intertwine with each other. So we all have a love story. So I begin by saying how we all have our own love story. Some of us have it some of us have it begin in high school, middle school. Sometimes our love story begins without us even realizing it until we are much older in life. For me, my love story actually began when I was a little guy. When I was about 6 years old. So about 1987. So about 1988. My apologies, getting these years all mixed up. So 1988 was around that time. And at that time I was living in the I was living in an apartment complex called Glen Ellen Manor, which was in Glen Ellen, right off of this road called Madrone, and also off of another road called Arnold Drive. And there was this rectangle space, sidewalk. It's a little grass in the middle, and from my apartment was downstairs, and from my room in the window, you could see that little space. And then there was this little girl. Her name was Melissa. Now, not every name in this book is the actual name. A lot of these names, they are changed to out of respect, whether good or bad, is out of respect and yeah, mostly out of respect. But there are some names that are actually real, like the name Melissa. She was really my first best friend, and someone, as I got a little older, someone that I thought that was going to be a little more. And as we began to play and become friends, we would go to each other's apartments. And my mom and her mom became friends. She was Jewish, and I'm Jewish. My mother's Jewish, so whatever the mother is, the baby is, kind of thing. So that's how really I am Jewish. But I'm not like religious or anything like that. I mean, I'm proud of the culture and the history that I have as someone who is biracial, who is half black and half white. And based off of what my mother is, which is Jewish, I'm proud of that as well. Melissa was Jewish, and my mother and her mother believed that we were going to grow up together and eventually become this couple and eventually get married and have this big Jewish wedding. But it didn't go out that way. Melissa was someone who was my best friend my first best friend. And as we got older, when we were 12 years old, I was a little out before I was 13. Her mother and Melissa, her mother decided to move, and it was just her and her mother because I believe her parents had gotten divorced a little earlier on, and Melissa and her mother were moving to Washington, the state of Washington. I believe it was Seattle that they were moving to, and I remember being very sad, very hurt by that because I knew I wasn't going to see her again. And it also meant any ideas that I had of me and her being more than friends, of being together like that as we would have grown up together, were gone. And we told each other the last day I saw her, we told each other that we would write each other, and we did, and we started to in the beginning, and it was more like we wrote maybe once or twice and tried calling each other, but nothing, but long distance, whatever it is, just doesn't work out. If the person, especially at that young age, I mean, we weren't Corey and Topanga, where Topanga in Boy Meets World leaves with her parents and has to move to another state, and on a rainy day when Corey is looking to go to Topanga, there's Topanga right there, right in front of his door. And she missed him. And Corey and Topanga love is that rare, unique kind of love that is possible, but makes for really good TV, especially when you're telling the love story of Corey and Topanga, who were like Romeo and Juliet, except no one dies. They lived happily ever after and had 2 kids, a daughter and a son. So anyway, but yeah, Melissa and I, when that was over, when she moved and we just kind of lost contact with each other, I remember how hurt I was. And I realized as I got older, when I started thinking about it, that it was heartbroken, that I was really heartbroken over it. And there are times to this day where I still think about her and I wonder how she's doing. And sometimes the what if she didn't move? What would have come between us if she had stayed? It is interesting to think about, but as I got older, as I got into middle school and high school, especially in high school, I met someone in high school and she became my girlfriend, and we fell in love. And I'm not going to tell you her name out of respect for her. No matter how the relationship ended, out of respect for her, I'm not going to tell you her name, but we fell in love, and our relationship lasted past high school and on, and it's about 5 years. We were together for about 5 years, but in those 5 years, there were so many things in our relationship that were up. That there were a lot of good things in our relationship, but when the bad happened, man did it hurt. Man, it was painful. It was painful. There was a time when she kissed someone else, cheating, and that was very early on in our relationship. And I remember wanting to end that relationship. That was it. And I remember I let her borrow a Michael Jackson CD that I had. It was the double disc. It was the History, Past, Present, Future Book 1. And I let her borrow it. And she gave it back to me, and I opened it up just to make sure I had both discs. And there was a letter in there, and I read the letter, and she said how sorry she was, and that if I wanted to talk, to go meet her in the theater, in the drama department. So a close friend of mine, his name was David, he tells me I should give her another chance. And now, if this was Emmanuel, I know, now, Meadow and I weren't really hanging out that much in high school. We were kind of doing our own thing. which is fine. But if I was hanging out with Emmanuel when she gave me that letter, I know Emmanuel would have. Sorry for laughing, but I know Emmanuel. He is my best friend. He is like a brother to me. He would have told me to F that chick. She cheated on you. She don't deserve a second chance. Move on. Find yourself another honey. He would have said something like that. Believe me, he would have said something like that. But I gave her a second chance, and we went on, and things were good. We were each other's first, and no, it was our relationship was good, and we fell in love, and we fell hard, and we fell quick in love, and our relationship was like a few scenes in Fast and Furious, if you know what I'm talking about, where it's just fucking fast, it just keeps on going. And when we crashed at the end of the relationship, we crashed hard, and she cheated on me second time, but this time actually going further than kissing, sleeping with someone else. And that was it. And I remember, and when that relationship ended in 2005, that was a lot more painful than her kissing some other guy. That was a lot more painful. And I almost killed myself over that. Like I remember just getting in my car and just driving. And I find myself on a cliff about to jump. But I hear a voice in my head, and that voice tells me that I got so much to live for and all that stuff. And I back away, and I sit down on the dirt, on the rocks and all that stuff. And I start to cry, and I start to, just break down. And then I go back to my parents' house and at the time my parents were living in Glen Ellen in a house that they were renting. And it was a 2-bedroom house. And I go into the spare room, which was, I guess, technically the master bedroom, but my parents didn't use that room. That was the spare room because it had a bathroom in it, and I loved that room. And eventually, after me and my now ex-girlfriend, and she was actually my fiance because I asked her to marry me because I started picturing this life with her because we were already living together. By 2000, late 2003 into 4 and the beginning of 2005, we were living together. And I was beginning to see this life of me and her together, being married, having kids, having this life, And all that shit just blew up in my face. And there was a moment when she was pregnant, but she got an abortion. And at the end of the day, it was really her choice. But there were a few times in that time, her mother did not like me. And I don't want to say it was because she saw me as someone who was black, and she didn't want her daughter to be with someone who was black, even though I'm biracial. I'm both black and white. But at a very early age, my dad would have the talks with me about how the world will see me versus who I really am. Like biracial, half black, half white, Jewish. And I didn't want to believe that was the reason why her mother made her get an abortion. I wanted it to be her mother said that getting an abortion is the right thing to do because how young we were. And we were young. We were in high school when she got pregnant. And don't get me wrong, I was excited. I was honestly excited about it. I didn't care that we were in high school. I was excited that the woman that I was dating, that I was in love with, was possibly going to be having my child. And I was very excited about that because that meant everything to me. And I was looking forward, as I grew up and going through high school, there were two things that I really wanted in life. I wanted to be in love and be married to someone that loves me as much as I love her, and I wanted to be a father. And I was so close at a very young age to almost having all of that. And, she got the abortion, and I wasn't upset about it. I was sad in the beginning, and then it's her decision, and I respected that. So I'm not gonna be mad there's no way I was gonna be mad at someone that I love that she got an abortion, if it was her choice. And I think she had people in her ear telling her the pros and cons of it, and I think based on that she made a decision to get an abortion. I believe so. It's still a bit of a tough subject to talk about at times, because sometimes I think about, man, if we had that child would be in their 20s right about now. And I can't help, it's interesting to think about how different the kind of life I would have had. I probably wouldn't be sitting here telling you this story. That's for sure. But after everything ended with my ex-fiance in 2005, love kind of was just a thing that I just did not want to be a part of anymore. But that only lasted for so long, because there was this girl, once I started getting back into the world and started feeling a little bit better like myself, there was this girl named Erica who was also biracial, red hair, beautiful, really beautiful. And she had her eyes on me for some reason. I don't know why. But we started seeing each other a couple times, and it never got all the way. I think y'all know what I mean by that. She had a cute kid, about a year old, I think. But she ended up, after we were only together for like a couple of months, and then she ended up moving to Arizona. And after a couple of months, we kind of lost contact with each other because we were just emailing each other. And then there was someone from work at the time when I was working at Lucky's, but that didn't last very long. At this point, I was kind of like in and out of my head a lot, especially with women. Like I was trusting women was very hard for me to do. And Erica, at that time, in late 2005 into 2006, Erica was around the time when I met Erica, and she was slowly bringing me back to trusting again. But when she left, I kind of just defaulted back to not trusting. And from 2005 all the way up to late 2015, there was really no one. There was a couple one-nighters and stuff like that, but there was really no one. And then there was someone else who a friend of mine who I met when we were working at the same school after I became a preschool teacher. I kind of met her, not my friend, but her friend. I met her through her, and we started kind of dating, but I don't even think we were really dating at that time. I think we were just casually seeing each other, but it was like we never really went on a date. We were just kind of doing, the other thing. And then we had a weekend in Truckee, and it got snowed in, so we had to stay at a hotel, and that kind of went. And then in February, she kind of ended it. She ended it, but I wasn't feeling good about being in that relationship. I just didn't know how to end it, and I didn't like how I was feeling being with her. It was a completely bad vibe after like a month or two, but I tried to stay in it and try to make it work, but it didn't. And that was it. And I haven't really been with anyone serious. I wouldn't even count the thing I had in like late 2015 into February 2016 serious. So I could honestly sit here and tell you that I haven't really been in a serious relationship since the one with my ex-fiance ended in 2005, which I don't know, it feels a little sad, but it's me keeping my heart very guarded. And then as I got older into my late 30s, and now I'm in my 40s, I've been wanting to have what I was able to have for a short amount of time from those early 2000s. You know, I want to be able to meet someone and they love me for everything that I am as much as I love them for everything that they are. And I want to be able to get married, and I want to have kids. I want to be able to have 2, maybe 3 kids. You know, I want to have a family. I want to be able to have the kind of family that I never had for myself, because the family that I grew up into looked at me as the black sheep, as a reminder of something they hated on both my mother and father's side. So I never really had a family. I never really had like the family that's always there for you. I had my parents, and my parents are my family. My father died in 2019, and my mother is all I have left. And I would love to just have my own family and have a wife that loves me as much as I love her for everything that I am, doesn't want to change me, just wants to be with me and love me for everything I am, and me being the same to her. And then we get married, we have kids, we have a good simple life, nothing too big, nothing too lavish, just something that is enough for me and her and our family, and giving my mom the grandkids she's always wanted. And that's it. And yeah, so that is a little bit from, that's me about this. My life in a nutshell. That's me talking a little bit about, we all have a love story, because we all have a love story. It all begins at a different time for all of us. And waiting for her. I am still waiting for her. Whoever the her is that I've seen in my dreams like once in a while. It's not all the time, but whoever her is that I see in my dreams, I am still waiting for her. And just keep living the life that I'm living. So for now, I'm Anthony K. Thomas. This has been a little bit of story time from my life in a nutshell. Remember, link is in my bio. Go ahead and click that Linktree link. That'll take you to my Linktree page, where you will find my life in a nutshell, as well as many other books and short stories. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you keep up when I drop story time or anything else here on the AKT Publishing YouTube channel. But for now, take care of yourselves, and I will see you again for another story time from my life in a nutshell. Peace, y'all.